Hello, and welcome to your YouTube channel, Learn English Lab. Today's podcast topic name is American English Idioms at Work, Advanced English Listening Practice Podcast.
I am so excited for this deep dive today, honestly.
Same here. Yeah. And to really understand why this topic is so incredibly critical for a deep dive today, I want you to imagine a specific scenario.
Oh, I love a good scenario.
Right. So close your eyes and picture this. You are sitting in your very first team meeting at a new job in the United States.
High stakes.
Absolutely high stakes. And you are feeling genuinely good about yourself. Your English is incredibly strong. You totally aced your interview to get this position.
You're confident. You're ready.
Spot on.
Yeah.
You possess this vast vocabulary. Your pronunciation is super clear. And honestly, you understand every single grammar point your university professors ever taught you.
You're basically technically and intellectually prepared for anything.
Without a doubt, you are professionally ready. And then your new director opens the meeting and says something like this. All right, team, before we get the ball rolling, I just want to circle back to what we discussed on Friday.
Oh boy, here it comes.
Yeah. Marketing wants us to think outside the box on this new software campaign, so let us put our heads together. Sarah, can you crunch the numbers by Thursday? And Jake, make sure the legal department is in the loop.
It's like a tidal wave of jargon.
It really is. And he finished this with, we really need to move the needle on this quarter's results. Any questions? Great. Let us hit the ground running.
And you're just sitting there.
Right. You sit there nodding politely with this practice smile on your face, but inside. Your mind is racing at 100 miles an hour.
Total panic mode.
Utter panic.
Yeah.
You're thinking, get the ball rolling, circle back, move the needle.
Because you're taking it literally.
Well, undeniably, that's what your brain does first. You are looking around this sleek conference room thinking, nobody is physically rolling anything here. Nobody is drawing geometric circles on a whiteboard.
And there is certainly no physical needle to be moved anywhere in the room.
Right. You understood every single English word individually. But somehow, when they were strung together in that rapid-fire sequence, the sentences made absolutely no sense at all.
It is a universally terrifying moment, really. And the psychological impact of that moment, it just cannot be overstated.
It really hits your confidence, doesn't it?
It crushes it. If this has ever happened to you, or something even remotely close to it, you are undeniably not alone. This experience is just so much more common than the corporate world openly acknowledges.
People kind of hide it.
They do, because they feel embarrassed. But what we are analyzing today goes way beyond acquiring standard vocabulary. Understanding every individual word in a dictionary is simply not enough in these high-velocity corporate environments.
The dictionary doesn't teach you the culture.
Spot on. Traditional textbooks, language academies, and even those really advanced proficiency exams rarely, if ever, cover what I like to call the invisible layer of American professional communication.
The invisible layer. I like that.
Yeah, and the mission of our deep dive into these materials today is to fundamentally decode this heavily idiomatic language. We are not merely talking about closing a language gap here.
Right.
We are talking about closing a confidence gap. Because when you do not understand the hidden, culturally embedded meaning behind these phrases, you instinctively start to shrink in the room.
You just kind of shut down.
You do. You lose your professional voice entirely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that confidence gap is the real tragedy here. It reminds me of a sports analogy, actually.
Oh, let's hear it.
Learning textbook English without learning the cultural idioms is basically like memorizing the entire massive rule book of a game. Like you spend countless hours watching historical tape, you learn the physics of the ball, but you never actually practice on the muddy field with the other players.
That is such a good way to put it.
Right. You have all the theory in your head. You know structurally how the game is supposed to be played, but the reality of the game, the chaotic speed, the unspoken shorthand the players use to shout to each other over the crowd.
The mud on your boots.
Yeah, the unpredictable mud on the field. It's entirely different from that sterile, perfect rule book. You are technically prepared to the highest degree, but practically, you just find yourself totally lost in the chaos of real-time execution.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we first need to dissect the psychological toll of not knowing this shorthand.
Because it really affects people deeply.
It does. It's crucial because it explains why mastering this invisible layer matters so deeply for your long-term career trajectory. There is this fascinating phenomenon we can call the paradox of advanced fluency.
The paradox of advanced fluency.
Yeah. Advanced non-native speakers have already conquered the most intimidating intellectual mountains. Like you have mastered complex, nuanced grammar.
Stuff that even native speakers mess up, honestly.
Without a doubt. You can digest incredibly dense 50-page academic reports. You write flawless, highly persuasive professional emails. You are, by all objective metrics, highly competent.
Right, you've done the hard work.
But then, when faced with this informal, idiomatic shorthand in a fast-paced Monday morning sync, that hard-earned competence suddenly feels incredibly fragile.
It just shatters.
It does. You experience an immediate cognitive overload as your brain frantically tries to translate the literal words, realize they make no sense, and then search for a metaphorical meaning. You miss the next 3 sentences of the meeting.
Which is terrifying because those sentences might have been important.
Spot on. You start to second-guess your own comprehension. You worry that you missed critical context clues, or worse, a direct instruction from leadership.
And then you just withdraw.
That's the natural human psychological response to that intense uncertainty. You withdraw defensively. You stop contributing your brilliant ideas to the meeting because you are paralyzed by the fear that your comment will be, slightly off topic due to a misunderstood idiom.
Which is deeply frustrating because the company did not hire you for your grammar.
No, they didn't.
They hired you for your specialized expertise. And there is a story from our materials that illustrates this psychological paralysis perfectly.
Yeah.
It's the story of a woman named Priya.
Oh, Priya's story is so illustrative.
It really is.
Yeah.
So Priya is a brilliant senior marketing professional, originally from Hyderabad, India. And she is recruited for a major position at a fast-moving, high-growth tech company in Austin, Texas.
So she's moving into a very intense ecosystem.
Very intense.
Well,
and in her very first week, she is sitting in this major high-stakes strategy session with the executive team. Her department director looks directly at her and says he wants her to take the lead on a massive new product launch.
which is clear. Take the lead translates pretty directly.
Right, she understands that perfectly. But then he immediately follows up by saying they need to get the ball rolling by Monday morning.
There it is.
Yeah, and that he wants her team to hit the ground running. And that the ultimate goal of the launch is to see if they can finally move the needle against their main competitor.
And suddenly she's lost.
Completely. Priya was frozen in her chair. She understands take the lead and by Monday, but the rest is just this absolute blur of aggressive-sounding imagery.
It's overwhelming.
It felt to her like a secret parallel foreign language was hiding inside the English language she thought she already knew inside and out.
You can vividly imagine the isolation she felt in that moment. It's that visceral feeling of being incredibly capable, holding years of strategic knowledge in your head, but suddenly being rendered entirely voiceless by a few casual metaphors.
That's heartbreaking, honestly.
But Priya's resolution to this problem is what makes her narrative so instructive for our listeners. She did not fall into the trap of going home and studying more advanced textbook grammar.
Thank goodness, because that wouldn't have helped at all.
Not at all. And she didn't open a dictionary to look up the literal word needle either. She recognized immediately that the problem was not her foundational English mechanics. It was this invisible cultural layer.
So what did she do?
She spent hours that evening specifically researching the actual contextual language her colleagues used in that conference room. She studied business idioms as if she were studying a brand new programming language.
Wow. That's taking serious initiative.
It is, and the result of that targeted effort, within a single month, she transitioned from being the anxious, silent observer to the most fluid, impactful communicator on her team. Her proactive approach fundamentally shifted her professional reality.
That's incredible. But I actually want to push back slightly on the dynamic of that conference room because I know someone listening is thinking this exact same thing.
Go for it.
If American colleagues, especially directors and executives, know they're working with brilliant international peers or people who just relocated to the country like Priya, why don't they just speak in clean, highly structured textbook sentences?
That is a very fair question.
Right. Why layer all this confusing metaphorical slang into a highly important professional meeting where clarity should be the absolute ultimate goal? My working theory is that native speakers are simply oblivious to how much slang they use.
You're definitely onto something there.
They aren't trying to build a wall, they just don't know the wall is there.
What's fascinating here is that native speakers do not even realize they are utilizing a separate code. It is a deeply ingrained cultural rhythm. It is unquestionably not a deliberate attempt to exclude international talent or to sound overly complex.
It's just how they talk.
Absolutely. In fact, to the native speaker, utilizing these idioms feels like the most natural, efficient, and streamlined way to communicate complex business concepts. Let us contrast different English-speaking business cultures to highlight this.
Okay, let's compare them.
A British colleague might say to you, "Shall we touch base tomorrow to review the document?"
Which is an idiom for sure.
It is an idiom, certainly, but an American colleague will often layer idioms much more densely, aggressively, and casually in a single breath.
Oh, totally. They stack them up.
Yes, they are far more likely to say, "Let's loop in the design team and make sure everyone's on the same page before we hit the ground running." It is a specific cultural preference for dynamic, highly action-oriented shorthand.
Action-oriented shorthand. That phrase perfectly captures the essence of American corporate dialogue.
Wow.
And this brings us directly to our first major thematic category.
Yes, let's dive into that.
Because American corporate culture is so deeply rooted in the philosophy of starting fast, taking immediate initiative, and showing visible value without hesitation, the very first category of idioms we absolutely must decode are the ones used to initiate action.
The ones that get things moving.
Well, undeniably. We have to look at the physics of starting. So let's examine the phrase, get the ball rolling. I want our listener to literally visualize the imagery here.
Okay, picture it.
Imagine physically pushing a massive, heavy stone boulder to overcome its natural resting inertia. The hardest part of the entire process is that first push from 0 to 1.
It takes so much effort.
So much effort. But once that boulder starts moving, physics takes over. It takes significantly less effort to keep it moving. So this phrase carries a very specific, heavy connotation of energy, friction, and momentum.
You're forcing it into motion.
Right. You are not just quietly starting a task. You are aggressively generating momentum against resistance. You will hear this constantly in kickoff meetings or when a manager is trying to initiate a stalled process via email.
Closely tied to that concept of generating initial momentum is the intense desire to bypass the warm-up phase entirely. And this introduces us to the phrase, hit the ground running.
I hear this one all the time in job postings.
Oh, it's everywhere. Literally, it conjures the image of a paratrooper dropping out of a plane. Their legs are already moving before their boots even touch the dirt, so they're ready for immediate action.
That's an intense visual.
It is. It means starting a new endeavor with full energy, maximum capacity, and immediate productivity. But we must analyze the psychological subtext here, because the subtext is what dictates your career survival.
What's the hidden message?
If a director uses this phrase during your final interview, or your manager says it on your very first day at a new desk, they are communicating a highly specific, slightly intimidating expectation.
They're dropping a hint.
A huge hint. They are telling you, without saying it in formal English, that they do not want to provide a lengthy, comfortable, structured onboarding period.
Oh, wow. So no reading manuals for a week?
Absolutely not. They do not want you taking 2 weeks to slowly figure out where the break room is, how to set up your email signature, or reading old company files. They expect immediate effectiveness, tangible contributions, and visible problem solving from day one.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. It is a phrase that inherently signals a high-pressure, high-velocity corporate environment where time is viewed strictly as money.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because have you noticed how a massive percentage of these American idioms are completely obsessed with physical motion, kinetic energy, and specifically aggressive sports?
Now that you mention it, yes.
Getting a heavy ball rolling, hitting the ground running, throwing a curveball, stepping up to the plate. It is almost never about sitting quietly, reflecting, and thinking deeply.
Oh, it's all action.
All action. I believe this reflects a much broader foundational cultural truth about the United States. American business culture heavily values visible action, raw speed, and tangible forward momentum over slow, quiet, methodical, philosophical contemplation.
They want to see you sweat, essentially.
Right. Even if a quick decision is slightly flawed, they prefer the flawed action over the perfectionist delay. They want to physically see you moving.
The language a society uses always reveals the deepest values of that culture. This bias for action over perfection is a hallmark of American capitalism.
It really is.
However, once you have hit the ground running and your project has incredible momentum, you run into the next challenge. You cannot execute a major project in isolation.
No, you have to work with other people.
You are forced to work within complex organizational matrices. And that brings us to our next vital category, The idioms governing teamwork, alignment, and collaborative synergy. Because moving at a high velocity is incredibly dangerous for a company if everyone in the department is sprinting in completely different directions.
Which introduces the ultimate ubiquitous alignment phrase on the same page. Let's look at the literal image again.
I like the visual approach.
Imagine a choir or an orchestra or a team of lawyers standing around a conference table. They are all reading from the exact same sheet of paper, the same musical score, or the same contract.
They are completely synchronized.
Absolutely. They are seeing the identical words in the identical sequence at the identical time. It is the ultimate, most common expression used to ensure a diverse group of people shares identical information, a unified understanding of the problem, and a synchronized goal.
You hear it before every big decision.
Every single one. Before a massive financial decision is finalized or a product is shipped, a leader will almost always pause and ask, just to be sure, are we all on the same page here?
Furthermore, staying on that metaphorical same page requires continuous, unbroken communication. This introduces the profound cultural mandate of the loop.
Ah, the loop.
Yes, you will hear professionals constantly talk about needing to keep someone in the loop or expressing frustration that they were left out of the loop. To be in the loop literally means you are included in the active flow of information.
It sounds simple enough.
But we must dig deeper into the cultural nuance here because misunderstanding this can seriously damage your reputation.
How so?
In American corporate structures, keeping a manager or a key stakeholder in the loop is not merely a polite suggestion or a nice courtesy. It is an unspoken, rigid expectation of continuous, transparent, and proactive communication.
So it's not optional.
Not at all. Failing to keep your cross-functional team in the loop is rarely chalked up to a simple difference in personal communication styles. It is heavily judged.
Like they assume you're hiding something.
Spot on. It is often perceived by leadership as a deliberate lack of transparency, an attempt to hide failure, or a fundamental lack of respect for the team's collaborative democratic process.
That is a massive distinction. So it is not just about sending an email. It is a structural, operational requirement of American business culture.
Without a doubt, American companies, particularly in the tech and modern corporate sectors, often favor flatter hierarchies compared to traditional global companies.
Information has to flow laterally.
Exactly. Well, undeniably. It must flow laterally across departments, not just strictly up and down a chain of command. If we compare this to British workplace culture, a British manager might request that you keep me posted or keep me in the picture.
Which feels a bit more relaxed.
It is. While the literal dictionary definition is similar, the word loop in the American context implies a systematic, unbreakable, automated flow of feedback. Think of a closed circuit in electronics.
It never stops.
Right. A loop is continuous. It goes around and around endlessly. If you break the loop, the entire system fails and the machine stops. The British equivalents, like keeping someone posted, imply a slightly less rigid, more episodic, relaxed cadence of updates, perhaps just when there is major news to share.
But the American loop demands constant telemetry.
Constant.
Now, speaking of loops and continuous circles, I have to challenge the utility of one specific phrase that always comes up. Circle back.
Oh, everyone's favorite target.
Right. As in, that is an interesting point about the budget. Let's circle back to this next week. I see people mercilessly making fun of this phrase all the time on professional networks and social media.
It is the ultimate corporate cliche.
It really is. There are endless internet memes mocking managers who say circle back. So if native speakers are openly mocking it and recognize it as corporate jargon, why should our listeners bother learning to use it? Shouldn't we actively advise them to avoid known cliches to sound more authentic?
This raises an important question about the difference between internet culture and actual conference room survival.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yes, it is frequently and gently mocked on social media or in water cooler office jokes, but I assure you it remains an essential, highly functional, and heavily utilized part of the American business lexicon.
But why, if everyone hates it?
Here's the underlying psychology of why it survives. It solves a very specific, very awkward meeting problem with maximum politeness.
Well, like when someone goes off topic.
Spot on. When a meeting with 20 people is rapidly getting off track because one person brings up a tangential issue, the leader cannot simply say, "Your idea is irrelevant right now, please stop talking."
That would be incredibly rude.
It would destroy the collaborative atmosphere and humiliate the speaker. So saying, let's circle back to this after we finalize the primary agenda is a diplomatic, non-confrontational deflector
A
shield.
deflector shield. I love that.
It allows the leader to shut down a distraction without insulting the professional integrity of the person who brought it up. It verbally acknowledges that the topic has potential value, but firmly delays it to protect the current momentum.
So it's actually really smart.
It is. Utilizing circle back naturally and smoothly instantly makes you sound like an experienced, emotionally intelligent navigator of complex American conference room dynamics. It proves you know how to manage the flow of a meeting without causing offense.
Ah, I see. So it functions as a diplomatic utility tool. It might be a cliche, but it is a cliche, undeniably, because it works so incredibly well at preserving egos.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so we are running fast, we are generating momentum, we are collaborating laterally, and we are keeping everyone securely in the loop. As you are executing all of this, your underlying work ethic, your personal integrity, and the fundamental quality of your output are constantly being evaluated by your peers and managers.
They are always watching.
Always. And the next set of idioms we need to unpack carries subtle, but incredibly powerful, lasting judgments about your professional worth and moral character in the workplace. These are the phrases that define how your overall value is measured.
These are the heavy hitters.
They really are. Let's look at the broad spectrum of quality. On the universally positive, highly celebrated end of this spectrum, we have the phrase, go the extra mile.
Always a good thing to hear.
Absolutely. This signifies that you did significantly more than what was explicitly outlined in your job description. You exceeded expectations. But on the dark, dangerous end of that spectrum, we have the phrase, cut corners.
Ooh, you do not want to be accused of that.
No. I really want to warn our listeners about the gravity of this one. Cutting corners originates from the idea of taking a dangerous shortcut, perhaps on a literal highway or in construction, bypassing necessary safety checks to save time.
Which is incredibly risky.
Right. In business, it means doing things cheaply, hastily, or unethically at the direct expense of quality and safety. If a director or a peer says you cut corners on a client presentation or a software build, that is not a casual passing observation about your speed.
It's an attack on your character.
Yes, that is a severe, potentially career-damaging professional critique of your fundamental integrity and reliability.
It is a devastating critique. If you are labeled a corner cutter, trust is instantly revoked. On the complete opposite side of cutting corners is the relentless pursuit of establishing new, higher norms of excellence, which is perfectly captured in the phrase, raise the bar.
Raise the bar.
Imagine the high jump in track and field. When an athlete clears the bar, the officials literally raise the physical bar higher for the next round.
Making it harder.
Undeniably harder. When an executive says your marketing team has raised the bar with your latest campaign, they mean you have established a brand new, elevated standard of performance for everyone in the company to aspire to. It is a monumental compliment.
But there's a catch, right?
There is a hidden psychological trap here. Once that bar is raised, the new unspoken cultural expectation is that you must indefinitely maintain that newly elevated standard.
You can't ever go back down.
You cannot ever regress to the old way of doing things. Interestingly, in British English, you might hear a colleague say you have upped the ante, which derives from gambling and card games carrying a slightly more competitive financial risk-oriented tone.
Oh, that's a cool distinction.
Yeah, but the American raise the bar is universally understood as purely elevating the quality and effort expected.
And when you are consistently raising the bar, eventually you are expected to deliver the ultimate, undeniable metric of capitalist success. You have to move the needle.
Move the needle. This one is huge.
I absolutely love the mechanical imagery of this one. I want you to imagine a physical analog gauge or a pressure meter, like the speedometer on a dashboard or a seismic graph.
Okay, picturing it.
If you just tap the machine, the needle barely shivers. It registers a microscopic change. So a CEO or a board of directors asking you to move the needle does not want incremental, tiny, safe tweaks.
They don't want a 1% bump.
No, they do not want a comfortable 1% improvement in efficiency. They want bold, disruptive, highly impactful strategies that produce massively visible, undeniable results that fundamentally alter the trajectory of the business.
They want the needle jumping all the way to the right.
Well, spot on. You hear this constantly in high-stakes environments like enterprise sales, global marketing, and major product launches. They want a massive, indisputable spike on that revenue graph.
They demand undeniable, measurable impact. But this raises an important question. What happens when you attempt an aggressive strategy to move that needle and you fail?
Because failure is going to happen eventually.
Because failure is a statistical inevitability in high-growth business. This brings us to a truly fascinating idiom and a profound shift in modern American corporate psychology. Drop the ball.
Another sports reference.
Naturally, the imagery comes from sports. A receiver failing to catch the football and letting the entire team down on a crucial play. It means failing a primary responsibility, missing a critical deadline, or making a significant unforced error.
Sounds bad.
But the true cultural power here lies in the concept of vulnerability. In modern American corporate culture, particularly in the post-Brené Brown era of leadership philosophy, openly and plainly admitting, I dropped the ball on that client account, is actually viewed as a sign of profound emotional maturity, supreme confidence, and strong leadership potential.
This is such a counterintuitive concept for many international listeners. Like, admitting total failure and fault makes you look like a strong, capable leader.
Unquestionably. In many cultures, saving face and maintaining the appearance of flawless competence is paramount.
You never admit a mistake.
Right. But in the American ecosystem, deflecting blame, pointing fingers at other departments, or crafting elaborate excuses to explain away an error is heavily frowned upon. It signals deep insecurity, weakness, and a lack of accountability.
It makes you look worse than the mistake itself.
Spot on. But owning the mistake entirely, standing up in the meeting and saying, I dropped the ball on the timeline, it was my oversight, and here is exactly how I'm going to fix it by tomorrow, builds immense, lasting respect among American peers.
That's fascinating.
It demonstrates that you are psychologically secure enough to take the hit and proactive enough to solve it without wasting time on defensive posturing.
So what does this all mean? Let me synthesize this, because it is a fascinating, almost contradictory paradox. American corporate culture aggressively demands high, bold, almost ruthless achievement.
You must constantly move the needle and raise the bar.
And hit the ground running. It is an intense pressure cooker.
Yeah.
But simultaneously,
Yeah.
It highly respects and even rewards humble, vulnerable, transparent accountability when you inevitably fail. You have to be a high-velocity superstar who is perfectly comfortable standing in front of the room and admitting when they drop the ball. That is a very specific, very narrow cultural tightrope to walk.
It is a delicate tightrope indeed. And all these subtle linguistic judgments about your collaboration, your visible effort, your moral integrity, and your personal accountability accumulate slowly over time.
They build your reputation.
Every meeting, every email, every casual hallway interaction builds your professional brand. This proves that these idioms are doing far more heavy lifting than just making sentences sound colorful, casual, or fun.
They aren't just slang.
They are absolutely not mere linguistic decorations. They are the literal currency of professional belonging. Which brings us to a vital sociological concept: idioms functioning as social currency.
Social currency. I really want to dig into this concept deeply. When I hear social currency, it makes me think of an exclusive VIP club.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. If you don't know the secret knock or the password, the bouncer does not let you inside. Is that essentially what is happening subconsciously in these corporate meetings?
That is an excellent analogy, yes. Using these idioms correctly signals to everyone in the room on a deep evolutionary psychological level that you belong to the established in-group.
Because humans are tribal.
Humans are tribal by nature, and language is our primary mechanism for identifying members of our specific tribe. When you effortlessly drop a phrase like, let's put that project on the back burner for now, into a casual brainstorming session, your native-speaking colleagues do not consciously stop and applaud your advanced vocabulary.
They aren't greeting your English.
No. Instead, it subliminally registers in their brains that you are one of us. You speak the tribe's native dialect. You understand the unspoken rhythm of the business. It builds a subconscious foundational trust and an easy rapport that is incredibly difficult to achieve through purely formal academic language.
Which highlights the massive hidden danger of relying purely on your textbook education. If you're speaking in perfectly formal, grammatically flawless, highly academic English, while everyone else around you is using this relaxed, idiomatic shorthand, it actually creates an invisible, chilling barrier.
It really does.
You might think you sound incredibly professional, authoritative, and smart, but you are inadvertently creating a sense of rigid distance. Even if the intellectual content of your speech is 100% accurate and brilliant, the highly formal style of your speech is subliminally telling them, I am an outsider. I am not fully integrated into this specific culture yet.
It creates a wall.
It makes the relationship feel strictly transactional rather than deeply collaborative.
Without a doubt, and this is exactly the point where many highly educated professionals get understandably defensive.
I can see why.
They think, well, I spent 10 years learning proper, sophisticated grammar. I don't want to dumb down my English just to sound like a casual startup bro.
But it's not dumbing down.
Not at all. You must reframe this entirely. You must think of this through the analogy of a master carpenter's toolkit. By learning idioms, you are absolutely not discarding your beautiful formal English.
You still have it.
You already possess the heavy hammer and the precision screwdriver that represents your formal academic English. It is perfect for writing legal contracts or giving keynote addresses. Now, you're simply adding the versatile wrench and the leveling tool to your linguistic toolkit.
Ah, the idiomatic English.
Yes. A master builder does not stubbornly use a heavy hammer for every single task. You are expanding your linguistic register so you can fluidly, seamlessly move between a formal, high-stakes presentation to the board of directors and a casual, feet-on-the-desk brainstorming session with your peers.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. You are not losing your sophisticated English, you are becoming infinitely more versatile. And speaking of versatility, let's pull some more specific tools out of that kit. Specifically the idioms that deal with the modern chaos of multitasking and relentless prioritization.
Let's do it.
In modern American workplaces, especially in the startup tech ecosystem, you will constantly hear people say, you need to wear many hats.
Oh, the hats.
This means taking on multiple, wildly different roles simultaneously. You are not just the hired graphic designer. Today you wear the marketing director hat, tomorrow you wear the customer support hat, and on Friday you wear the event planner hat.
It's a survival tactic for small companies.
It is a psychological framing device used by companies to reframe being understaffed as a noble virtue of extreme adaptability.
And when you are frantically wearing all those different hats, you are forced to prioritize your limited time. That is where we get the highly visual idiom to put something on the back burner.
Which comes from cooking.
It comes directly from the mechanics of cooking on a stove.
Yeah.
The pots on the front burners are actively boiling over. They require your immediate, undivided attention or dinner is ruined.
You have to wash them constantly.
Right. The soup on the back burner is just slowly simmering. You can safely ignore it for an hour while you chop vegetables. So, explicitly putting a project on the back burner means formally pausing it because it is currently a low priority, but acknowledging it is not completely canceled.
It's still cooking, just slowly.
Spot on. Conversely, a crisis or a project that demands your absolute immediate priority is declared front and center.
I use back burner all the time without even consciously realizing I'm referencing a stove. Now, what about the dynamics of ambition? What happens when a sudden crisis occurs or a massive new opportunity arises and leadership needs someone to bravely take charge?
That is when you need to be prepared to step up to the plate.
More baseball.
Here we are returning to the deep American obsession with baseball. The batter literally steps out of the safe dugout and walks up to home plate to face the intimidating pitch.
They're in the spotlight.
In business, it means voluntarily raising your hand for a highly visible, difficult challenge, or taking ultimate responsibility when a leader is desperately needed. If your department manager looks around a silent room and asks who is going to handle a furious, difficult client, and you volunteer, you have bravely stepped up to the plate.
High risk, high reward.
It is high risk, but extremely high reward. And when you do step up to the plate, you need to ruthlessly focus on the bottom line.
The bottom line. This is a big one.
This powerful idiom comes directly from the rigid world of financial accounting. On a complex, multi-page corporate financial statement, the literal bottom line on the final page is the net profit or loss. It is the final, most crucial number that determines if the company survives.
So in conversation.
In regular business conversation, cutting to the bottom line means demanding the speaker strip away all the marketing fluff, the excuses, and the complex background details and get straight to the most essential truth or the final raw outcome.
Okay, so we have fully built out our toolkit. We deeply understand the concept of social currency, and we know how to verbally prioritize our daily tasks. But now you have to take this newly acquired toolkit into the really intimidating make-or-break environments.
The scary rooms.
Yeah, the high-stakes situations like final round job interviews, venture capital pitches, or closed-door executive meetings. How do these casual-sounding idioms function when the pressure is immense and millions of dollars or your career trajectory are on the line?
In high-stakes pressure cooker environments, these specific phrases act as a lubricant. They help you navigate rigid corporate approvals and confidently demonstrate your immense value without sounding arrogant or overly formal.
Can you give an example?
For example, when you need ultimate authorization for a massive budget, you are looking to get the green light.
Like a traffic light.
It is the universal, globally understood traffic signal for approval to proceed. If the executive board loves your pitch, you finally get the green light. If they are skeptical, your project might get shelved.
Literally put on a shelf.
Put away on a dusty shelf like an unread book. Or they might put the brakes on, bringing your carefully built momentum to a sudden, jarring halt.
And when you are sitting in a high-stakes interview, actively trying to convince a panel of directors to give you that green light on a lucrative job offer, you absolutely need to know how to deploy this idiom. Bring something to the table.
Oh, that is a profoundly crucial one.
It means clearly offering your unique skills, your past experience, or your strategic value to a collaborative group. When a skeptical interviewer leans forward and asks, "What exactly do you bring to the table?" They're essentially asking why they should risk hiring you over the 50 other applicants.
They want to know your value.
Absolutely. You can answer, "I bring a decade of predictive data analysis and a deep network of vendors to the table." It allows you to confidently, strongly state your immense value without sounding egotistical, because the imagery implies you are bringing a rich dish to a shared collaborative team dinner.
It is a deeply collaborative, almost communal framing of personal ambition. Now, let us look at an idiom that requires immense emotional intelligence and situational awareness to use correctly. Play it by ear.
Play by ear.
This means handling a dynamic situation spontaneously, intuitively, as it develops in real time, rather than following a strict, predetermined, rigid plan. Originally, it referred to a musician playing a song purely by listening and feeling the music, rather than rigidly reading sheet music.
Wait, let me pause and construct a scenario to push back here. Is it always safe to use these casual improvisational idioms?
Go ahead. Let's hear the scenario.
Because if I'm about to walk into a make-or-break million-dollar pitch with a massive new enterprise client, and I casually turn to my CEO and say, "Don't worry, I haven't practiced the slides, I'm just going to play it by ear," I feel like I would be fired before you even open the conference room door.
You are absolutely correct, and that scenario perfectly illustrates the vital importance of reading context. Play it by ear is a fantastic, highly functional idiom for a casual internal sync among peers.
Right, internally.
If you say, "I don't know how long this vendor lunch meeting will go, let's just play the afternoon schedule by ear," that is perfectly fine. It shows flexibility. But it would be an absolute professional disaster for a high-stakes presentation where solid, rigorous preparation and a clear, data-driven strategy are the minimum expectations.
It would look so unprofessional.
If you tell a high-paying client you are playing their million-dollar marketing campaign by ear, you are effectively telling them you are reckless and unprepared. You must constantly read the room. You have the linguistic tool, but the true mastery is knowing exactly when to leave it in the toolbox.
You must read the room. Absolutely. And seeing that I am catching myself naturally using idioms like read the room just proves how infectious this language is.
It is very contagious.
Before we move to the practical application, let's quickly mention one of the most famous, perhaps overused idioms globally. Think outside the box. We all know it means utilizing creative, highly unconventional thinking to solve a stubborn problem. But people constantly complain that it is a tired, meaningless cliche now. What are the modern, fresher variants our listeners should use to sound current?
While think outside the box is still widely understood and perfectly acceptable in traditional corporate sectors, in more modern, hyper-competitive, or creative tech industries, you might hear leaders ask you to think laterally.
Think laterally.
Or they might say, take a completely different angle on this. But what is truly fascinating about our source materials today is how they utilize meta-idioms. These are idioms used specifically to describe the intellectual process of working and learning itself.
Oh, right. Like when the text talks about complex phrases that catch you off guard, that literally means to surprise you, to catch you when you are resting flat-footed and not prepared defensively. Or the constant modern mandate to cut through the noise, which implies a chaotic environment filled with data where you must aggressively ignore irrelevant information to find the true, essential, actionable facts.
It's about extreme focus.
And, of course, the absolute hallmark of emotional intelligence we discussed earlier, the profound ability to own your mistakes. These aren't just colorful vocabulary words you memorize for a quiz. They are entirely distinct philosophies of working.
Unquestionably. They are deeply embedded philosophies of how American business operates. So we have thoroughly diagnosed the problem, we have explored the vital phrases, and we have peeled back the layers to uncover the deep cultural and psychological subtext of the American workplace.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did, but intellectual knowledge without practical daily application is just interesting trivia. Finally, we must look at how you, the listener, can actually practice, internalize, and permanently retain this knowledge starting tomorrow morning when you log into your computer for work.
Yes. Let's get incredibly practical. How do we take this from theory to reality? How do we internalize this invisible language so it feels natural?
The first, highly effective strategy is a neuro-linguistic technique we call the echo method.
The echo method, tell me more.
Here is exactly how it functions in reality. When you are sitting in a meeting and you hear a native-speaking colleague naturally drop an idiom into the conversation, make a rapid mental note of it.
File it away?
Yes. Your objective is to find a natural opportunity to use it yourself, to actively echo it back into the world within the next 24 hours. Crucially, you must do this in a low-pressured, low-stakes environment.
So don't try it out on the CEO first.
No, absolutely not. It could be while drafting a routine email, sending a quick Slack message to a friendly coworker, or even during a casual chat with a friend over coffee. If your manager casually mentions, let's put that reporting project on the back burner, later that afternoon, you proactively message a trusted teammate.
And you say,
hey, since we put the reporting project on the back burner, I am going to focus all my energy on the slide deck. This rapid contextual echoing forces your brain to move the phrase from passive recognition, where you merely understand it, into your active, deployable vocabulary.
I love the echo method because it utilizes spaced repetition. And to supercharge that method, you need to maintain an idiom journal. But please, listen to me carefully on this. Do not just buy a notebook and write down sterile dictionary definitions.
Oh, that's a mistake so many people make.
It is. That is how you studied for standardized tests in high school. And neuroscience proves it absolutely does not work for adult fluency. You need to write 3 very specific, context-rich things in this journal.
What are they?
Number 1, write the exact idiom itself. Number 2, write the precise real-world context and the exact sentence you heard it used in. Note the details. Who said it? Was the mood in the room tense or relaxed? Was the boss angry or happy?
Context is everything.
And number 3, write a brand new, highly specific sentence relevant to your personal life and your specific daily job duties. If you hear someone say circle back, write a sentence in your journal about how you personally are going to circle back with your specific software vendor about an upcoming update.
And that makes it personal.
Right. This leverages the psychological power of contextual learning. Neuroscientists have proven that your brain encodes memories vastly better when they are attached to emotion, physical space, and personal relevance. You are hardwiring the language directly to your actual reality.
And that leads directly to our final highly actionable tip for tomorrow morning, the pre-meeting goal. This is about the gamification of your learning process.
Gamification always works.
It does. Before your very next team meeting, I want you to privately pick 2, maybe 3 idioms that you have studied and feel somewhat comfortable with conceptually. Set a quiet, internal, personal goal for yourself to naturally, seamlessly drop at least one of those targeted phrases into the live conversation.
But don't force it.
No, do not force it awkwardly into a sentence where it doesn't belong. Actively hunt for the conversational opening. Wait patiently for the moment when a colleague asks about project alignment or a deadline, and casually, confidently say, I just want to make sure we are all fully on the same page before Friday's launch.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to ensure people don't misunderstand the mechanics of this goal. These aren't rigidly scripted robotic lines you are memorizing to perform like an actor on a stage. Think of these phrases as flexible, adaptable framework.
Well, undeniably.
It is beautifully similar to learning a chord progression in jazz music. When you first learn a complex jazz chord, you have to practice the exact finger placement rigidly. It feels awkward and mechanical.
Your fingers stumble at first.
Right. But once your fingers memorize the shape and the muscle memory sets in, you can improvise endlessly. You can adapt that chord to any song in any tempo. But once you truly understand the core mechanics and the cultural weight of In the Loop, you can modify it infinitely.
You can play with it.
Please keep me in the loop. Are you currently in the loop on this? I feel completely out of the loop regarding the new budget. It ceases to be a memorized phrase and becomes a natural, fluid extension of your complex thoughts.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are essentially learning the underlying musical chords of American business culture. So let us formally recap the deep journey we have taken together today.
We've covered so much.
We really have. You have not just listened to a dry list of vocabulary words. You have actively analyzed and engaged with the living, breathing, high-velocity culture of modern American business. You now profoundly understand why these specific phrases carry the heavy psychological weight that they do.
You understand the subtext now.
You understand the industrial physics of starting fast, the unbreakable mandate of continuous lateral collaboration, the profound cultural expectation of vulnerability and accountability when you inevitably fail, and the critical strategic importance of utilizing these phrases as social currency to subliminally signal that you belong in the executive room.
It's all about belonging.
It is. I want to strongly encourage you to step up to the plate. Stop merely communicating sterile facts and start deeply connecting with your peers on a shared cultural level. Your deliberate, proactive effort to master this invisible layer puts you miles ahead of the competition.
It really, truly does.
Yeah.
You are doing the difficult, unseen work that permanently sets you apart as a leader. Now, before we conclude today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a brand new, highly provocative concept to mull over on your commute home or during your next quiet coffee break.
A parting thought.
We spend a lot of time analyzing how idioms act as an exclusive social currency in the American ecosystem. I want you to mentally turn the mirror around. Think deeply about your own beautiful native language and the specific historical workplace culture in your home country.
That's an interesting exercise.
What are the unspoken, highly idiomatic, metaphor-rich social currencies that you casually use every single day that would completely baffle a foreign professional trying to integrate into your office?
Oh, I bet there are dozens.
Hundreds, probably. By analyzing how you naturally use your own idioms to signal tribal belonging, intelligence, and shared understanding in your native tongue, you might just find the ultimate psychological cheat code for mastering the psychology behind American corporate speak. Ultimately, it is all just human connection, just wearing different cultural hats.
A profound and deeply empathetic thought to end on. Recognize the immense expertise you already possess navigating your own native culture and actively apply that sophisticated lens to your new environment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this extensive journey into the invisible, fascinating language of the modern workplace. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.